Velkommen til min kanal Sainabou. Den her dokumentarserie er som sagt et forsøg på at sætte ord og tanker på nogle af de bekymringer, jeg har, når det kommer til hele den teknologiske udvikling, og mere specifikt den måde teknologiens manipulerende mekanismer påvirker os alle sammen. I en verden, hvor vi alle er lige så afhængige af teknologien, som en ludoman er af at gamble.
The first game that we have is relatively new, but has the power to glue you to your seat, eyes fixed on dropping little balls into cups. Of course, I'm talking about the new app sensation that is 100 Balls. A game that starts off deceptively easy, turns into a challenging test of concentration and reflexes. You score points when you drop the balls into the cups, which are then recycled back into the system. Different colored cups turn your balls into that color, granting you additional points. 100 Balls is definitely a very addictive game, but be warned, once you pick it up, you might not be able to put it back down. The next game that we have is the very successful tile-based game, 2048. Taking the App Store by storm, 2048 tore through the charts with its very addictive gameplay and simple objective: to add like tiles together until they create the coveted 2048 tile. The game actually takes a lot of strategy, and there are multiple iterations out there as well, including 2048 Plus, which adds objectives to the gameplay. I would also recommend trying out the even more challenging precursor to 2048 Threes, which is available for purchase on the App Store as well. Who can forget one of the first viral addicting games to hit the App Store? Angry Birds. A game based off of the castle catapulting genre, Angry Birds' lighthearted graphics and fun gameplay mechanics took not only the App Store, but the world by storm, and soon became the poster child for successful iOS development ventures. The many iterations of Angry Birds since then have included a movie tie-in, seasonal levels, a racing game, and more. Its overall success and addicting nature has definitely earned Angry Birds a spot on this list. Before Flappy Bird and other scream-at-your-phone addicting games, there was Backflip Madness, a game that requires you to tap just one button in order to perform challenging backflips in a variety of different locations. The difficulty of the game comes from the fact that you must perform each stunt perfectly or lose a life. 3 strikes and you start again from scratch. This game can have you yelling at it in minutes, but still maintains a very strong sense of reward after pulling off that perfect stunt. Bloons Tower Defense 5 has become a staple of lighthearted tower defense games on the App Store. Featuring fun graphics and challenging levels, complete with crazy achievements, Bloons Tower Defense 5 really has the power to make you play for hours before looking up and wondering where all the time is gone. The countless upgrades, missions, and content all come together to create a game that can entertain you for hours. But be careful, it's really easy to get addicted. One of the pioneers of free-to-play addicting games was Candy Crush. Essentially a candy reskin version of Bejeweled, complete with countless levels, power-ups, and social interaction. Candy Crush really packs a punch that has incited many a sweet tooth addiction towards the app. Whether you're a fan of the free-to-play microtransaction games or not, there's no denying that Candy Crush is a very addictive and well-thought-out match 3 game. The next game that we have is Clash of Clans, an insanely addictive game that puts you and your friends into clans, all competing against various opponents, upgrading defenses, and collecting resources. Recently, they made true to their name and launched Clan Wars, which now allows clans to go head-to-head in epic battles. Overall, a very addictive game that has the power to consume your social life, so be warned. What is a better activity than baking and eating cookies? Clicking cookies, of course, and the ultimate time waster, Cookie Clicker. This game has the power to mesmerize your imagination in exciting ways such as clicking a cookie faster, and hiring grandmas to make you more cookies. Now you might be asking yourself, what's the point of making all of these cookies? To buy more cookies, of course. Overall, a very fun and kind of weird time waster that has the potential to form an addiction stronger than eating cookies themselves. If cookies aren't your style and you're more of a money kind of guy, check out Make It Rain, which is essentially Cookie Clicker reskinned with straight up cash. Few of these games so far have the ability to form an addiction the whole family can enjoy, or be a slave to depending on your perspective. Cut the Rope is one of these games. Cut the Rope puts you in many cool environments that have you cutting ropes in order to get the candy to the lovable creature Om Nom. The genius part of the game comes from the fact that the game is simple enough for kids to beat each level, yet challenging enough for adults to strive for 3 stars every time. Break this app out on family game night and your family just might become addicted. The next game is the only game that I've seen where the title serves the dual purpose of instructions on how to play the game. Of course, I'm referring to Don't Touch the White Tile, where you strive to not touch the white tile, as the name would suggest. This may seem very easy at first, however, it becomes increasingly difficult as you strive to be as fast as you can while still obeying the game's one rule, to avoid the white tiles. Overall, a fun game that has the potential to get you very addicted.
Pokémon Go. Spillet, hvor folk endelig var sammen i den virkelige verden, men i virkeligheden hver for sig. Hvorfor er det, at Pokémon Go i 2016 blev anklaget for at være børnelokker? Kan det virkelig passe?
The one thing that I want to show you guys is we have finally arrived right here at the mall. Take a look at this. Like, all of these Pokestops, they're all activated. I honestly cannot accurately describe how nervous I am right now. I'm honestly nervous to go in there. It's gonna close in 4 minutes. Let's do this. I gotta do it, guys. Oh, it's evening. Alright guys, so I put something inside of this gym. Let's see what's gonna be happening. I haven't gone inside yet. I saw this gym on top of here and I was like, you know what? I just gotta take down the gym and kinda be like, hey, I'm here, right? Something along those lines. Anyway, let's go inside. All of these lures are on here. I feel I'm wasting time here. Popped up my Go Plus because I just kinda, you kinda have to grab all of these Pokestops non-stop here. So I kinda wanted to make the first Pokemon that I'm catching here kind of like an interesting one. So I decided to go with a Pineco right here. It's actually AR shot, this one. Right there. And now let's try, I didn't even know I had AR mode on, so I think this was a good time. Yes! I got it. So excited. And I broke my streak, unfortunately, yesterday. This was supposed to be my 7-day streak. Unfortunately, it's not happening, but still, my first Danish Pokemon. Funny enough, ever since I've been here, everything has been just Denmark. It doesn't show the prefecture, it doesn't show the actual place, just Denmark. Which is good enough for me. So this is gonna be my Danish first Pokemon.
Man snakker ofte om Skyggespillet. Så hvad er det, vi ikke ser? Det interessante er, at Pokémon Go ikke blev opfundet af et legetøjsfirma eller gamerindustrien, men blev opfundet af Google, under ledelse af John Hank. John Hank opfandt operationen Operation Keyhole, som jeg synes, man skulle dække lidt ind i. Operation Keyhole blev til en nyt startup, som CIA investerede i. Og Operation Keyhole blev til Google Earth, som vi alle sammen kender og bruger den dag i dag. Pokémon Go blev altså opfundet hos Google, de første pionerer inden for overvågningskapitalismen. Hvordan kan det mon være?
Pokemon Go was invented in Google, incubated there for many years, developed there, led by a man named John Hanke. And John Hanke invented an operation called Keyhole, which was invested in by the CIA and later purchased by Google and called Google Earth.
Google Earth was a CIA startup initially?
Yes, Google Earth was something called Keyhole, and it was a CIA-invested startup. So it's important to understand that Pokemon Go was not some happy little game that just got launched into the world by a toy company or something. When they decided to bring Pokemon Go to the public, they didn't want to bring it as a Google game. They brought it to market as Niantic Labs, which no one had ever heard of. Just a cool startup with this cool game. So now we have this Google augmented reality game, and it turns out that the big game that is on top of the little game that the children are playing is a game that precisely emulates the logic of surveillance capitalism. So in surveillance capitalism, in the original version online, we predict the click-through rate, and we sell the click-through rate to the advertiser, who pays to get clicks on their website, clicking through ultimately to the buy button. That's what they're hoping for. Now, in the real world, business customers paid Niantic Labs, the Pokemon Go company, paid Niantic Labs not for click-through, but for the real-world equivalent of click-through, which is called footfall. To actually get real bodies with their real feet into real business establishments so that their feet would go fall, tap, tap, tap across the store or across the restaurant or across the bar in order to buy something.
So I could order by Niantic Labs a Pokemon in my ice cream parlor, for instance.
All of these establishments, they're buying what are called, here's the term, lure modules. Modules like a gym that lure people to you. Not so that they will come and be happy, but so they will come and spend money in your shop or your restaurant. Starbucks, McDonald's, everybody was making money. Everybody was making money. Niantic Labs was making money, and all these businesses were making money. And the people playing the game had no idea. So they used the rewards and punishment of the game to herd you through the city to the places that were paying for your body. This was the game of Pokemon Go. This was the real game, the shadow game, getting you into a place where we have predicted that you will be, so that our predictions are worth more. If I can guarantee you're actually going to be there, my prediction that you're going to be there is worth a lot more. Economies of action are how I guarantee that. And Pokemon Go was a large-scale experiment, a global-scale experiment in economies of action, using remote control means to automate behavior, to engineer behavior, to fulfill others' commercial ends, while you are having a great time. You are intended to be in the feeling of being served. You are intended to be saturated with convenience so that you will not notice and you will not complain. And all of this shadow operation will remain hidden because you will not ask questions, because you're so busy being entertained.
Forretningskunder over hele verden betaler altså Niantic Labs for at lure tusindvis af mennesker ind i deres butikker og forretninger. De kalder det rent faktisk lure modules. Og det var ikke for, at de skulle komme og have det sjovt, få gaver eller rabatter, men ganske enkelt selvfølgelig for, at de skulle komme og købe noget. Komme og bruge penge i deres butikker og forretninger. Og Pokemon Go brugte belønning og straf i spillet til at lede folk igennem byen. Til alle de steder, som havde betalt Niantic Labs, for at garantere, at de her Pokemon Go-spillere ville møde fysisk op inde i deres butikker. Og det var det, som i virkeligheden var Pokemon Go-spillet.
Check out this gym. oldest operating McDonald's in the world. So if you wanted to control a gym at a McDonald's, this is the one.
So, today we're on a tour of LA.
First stop, Chinatown. Which one do I throw my money in if I'm wishing for a perfect IV Lapras to hatch from my egg? Oh, secret wish. Secret wish.
There's IVs.
I'm going for secret wish.
Hey, that counts.
Secret wish. We'll see if it works.
Next stop, Little Tokyo.
First things first, it's lunchtime.
Here.
Last time I came to this restaurant, I sat on the other side and I could only reach one Pokestop. But on this side, I got two. So if you come here, make sure you sit on the left side.
We're here still at Little Tokyo, and this place is a gold mine. Everyone seems to be launching out their lures, and we can't really walk a foot without encountering at least 2 different wild Pokemon, so we're gonna take advantage.
You guys should take advantage too if you get a chance, because there's evidence coming out now that Pokemon attracted by lures actually have higher IVs than regularly caught Pokemon. We're gonna do some research on this and report back to you guys in an upcoming video, but that's what we're hearing right now. Dude, what's the CP on yours?
737.
You want to see mine?
Sorry, Nick. And I just caught it. Thank you.
21. 21 CP.
737.
Straight up the Vita style, like.
Trying everything I can to get that Lapras.
You can't go wrong with some Toros. We've been walking around all around Los Angeles, and we just made it to the Arts District.
There's a ton of murals, and a lot of them are Pokestops or gyms.
This gym had already been taken over by Team Mystic, and I just left my level 1500 Arcanine to keep it going.
And I'm gonna take it down with my Vaporeon, because that's what Vaporeon does.
Pokémon Go, som alle børnene spillede, var altså et verdensomspændende eksperiment, hvor Starbucks, McDonald's, Pokémon Go, Niantic Labs, alle sammen tjente usmageligt mange penge. Alt imens folk havde det sjovt.
Have you ever caught yourself thinking, it's only 5 minutes, plus it's educational? Or, I'd rather have the screen than the scream? Well, you're not alone. Many parents give in to their children's request for screen time to avoid a fight. This can work, but it can also create bigger problems in the long run. Think about what your child looks like while using that screen. From the outside, you see them sitting quietly and just moving their thumbs. But what's going on inside when they're focused on these intense, reactive, and interactive games and video games? What parents often don't consider are the physical effects these games have on the brain and the body. Let's get technical and dive into the brain of a 4 or 5-year-old when they choose to play games during screen time. Reactive games activate your child's limbic system, also known as their emotional brain or downstairs brain. The amygdala, which houses the fight or flight response, lights up and triggers stress hormones, like cortisol and adrenaline, to be released into the brain and the body. When the game they are playing rewards them for completing a task, the reward system of their brain, the nucleus accumbens, located in the striatum, gets fired up with dopamine, the pleasure neurotransmitter. The dopamine feels good, and once they have some, they will want more. But the flood of stress hormones already released requires their body to release an even higher dose of dopamine than normal. And then, to maintain the level of dopamine, the rewards need to continue, so they must keep playing the game. It's also why most other activities just don't compare. What's happening to their brain has a direct link to what's happening to their body. You can't see what's going on inside their brain, but you can see the brain's effects on the body. Let's observe. While playing, your child's heart rate rises. Breathing increases as adrenaline and cortisol flow through the body. Instinctually, the body is now ready to either take flight or fight. But all you see is your child sitting on the couch, maybe tensing up a bit, sitting up straighter, or breathing a little heavier. Then, the game ends. Screen time is over. But your child's body has no way of releasing all of the stress hormones flowing through it. All of that energy has to go somewhere. They stand up, heart pumping, and since their energy has nowhere to go, they just explode.
No small circular children were harmed in the making of this video.
This video is brought to you by the folks at Hello Joey, with special input from neuroscientist Dr. Alex Korb and psychiatrist Dr. Victoria Dunkley. To learn more, head on over to hellojoey.com.
Lad os se lidt på det her med dopamin i hjernen. Dopamin regulerer vores lystfølelse, eufori. Og dopamin bliver brugt af hjernens belønningssystem, når vi har gjort noget, vi er glade for, eller er stolte af, eller når vi har spist noget, vi craver efter. Så det her, at dopamin spiller ind. Når vi spiller vores yndlingsspil på mobilen, tabletten eller computeren, poster billeder på de sociale medier, eller shopper på nettet, så er det på samme måde den intense lykkefølelse, vi mærker. Det skyldes, at der frigives dopamin i bestemte hjerneområder. Præcis på samme måde som euforiserende stoffer. Og der er det, jeg synes, det er lidt tankevækkende, at vi ikke snakker mere om de konsekvenser og bivirkninger, der er, når det kommer til teknologien. I forhold til, hvordan vi snakker om euforiserende stoffer, alkohol, cigaretter og mange andre ting. Som flokdyr styres vi alt for ofte af den form for dopamin i hjernen, som er drevet af den flokmentalitet, som der dikteres i vores samfund eller omgangskreds.
You might remember that time as a child when you wanted to have that cool hat just because your friend had it. And in reply, your parents asked you, if your friends jumped off a cliff, will you jump too? And the first thought in your mind would be, hell no, that's insane. But what if you actually were part of a crowd that was jumping off a cliff? And I would say that you were going to jump too. Now you might have begun questioning my sanity, but that is what's exactly going to happen. And this is a proven psychological phenomena known as herd mentality, or mob mentality. Herd mentality is a condition that describes the imitative, moralist, and sometimes even hostile behavior demonstrated by people in large crowds. When otherwise rational and peace-loving individuals come together to form a crowd, they lose their individual thinking and reasoning ability and form part of a crowd guided by a collective mentality, which might be foolish and even harmful. So what makes a seemingly intelligent and harmless individual do horrendous things when they become part of a mob? Let's find out. French polymath Gustave Le Bon was an expert in many different subjects, from medicine to psychology to physics. He's best known for his book The Crowd, a study of the popular mind which explained crowd psychology and why people behave differently in groups. Crowd is a group of people united by a common ideology, belief, or idea. However, the characteristics of the crowd are far different from the characteristics of the individuals within it. Le Bon said that when in a crowd, the individual becomes less civilized. While a person may be cultured outside of a crowd, when part of it, they act like a barbarian, behaving on instinct. These crowd characteristics are produced by 3 causes. By being aware of these causes, techniques can be used to intentionally manipulate crowds to behave in a particular way. This has been used in the fields of business and politics in the past, with many questioning whether it is ethical to do so. During the recent BLM protest, I watched on television as thousands of people gathered on streets all across the USA for something constructive. But it did not take much before things turned bitter. Video evidence showed that huge groups of people rioted in towns and cities, demolishing statues, subjecting public buildings to arson, and looting stores. Many shops and businesses were destroyed as a result of arson and looting. People behaved like this in a crowd, but why do they not behave like that when they're on their own? For some, it'd be a question of morality. For others, it would simply be due to the fear of being arrested and jailed. Laban argues that when in a crowd, the anonymity that the crowd provides the individual, due to the large numbers, means that they lose their fear of the consequences, as well as their moral responsibility. This temporary feeling of invincibility causes them to be unable to restrain certain instincts that they otherwise would. In February 2013, a man in China started selling cans of fresh air for 80 cents due to the bad population in the country at the time. Despite admitting the canned air was a lighthearted stunt, in 10 days he managed to sell 10 million cans. Another example can be seen in the 1600s Netherlands. At that time, tulips were seen as a symbol of status in the Netherlands. The value of tulips rose so high that people were spending their life savings on tulip bulbs, simply because everyone was trying them. This resulted in a large amount of money lost when the prices eventually crashed. Both these stories are examples of fads as a result of contagion. In a crowd, Laban believed every act is contagious, to a point where an individual will sacrifice his personal interests for the interest of the crowd. Fresh air in a can was a nonsensical fact, and buying a can of fresh air was a nonsensical act that an individual would not do on their own. However, when part of a crowd, even irrational acts become contagious. The word demagogue was born in ancient Greece. It comes from the words demos, meaning the people, and agogos, meaning leader. In the 20th century, there are many examples of demagogues who had a powerful influence over crowds due to high levels of suggestibility. They have transformed a nation of individuals, most of which had no intention of ever murdering a fellow human being, to act ruthlessly and inhumanely by punishing for brutality. The mob mentality that arose turned the crowd into a bigoted, vicious, and genocidal horde. Laban claimed that after being part of a crowd for a period of time, the individual enters a state, similar to being hypnotized, where they are mesmerized by the leader of the crowd. The power and influence that leaders of these crowds have can lead to terrible atrocities. The leader can influence the crowd to think and feel a certain way. The crowd then often turns those thoughts into acts. Crowd mentality not only affects the average Joe, but also destroys the rational judgment and morality of otherwise high-class, sophisticated individuals. This incident happened in a lawn tennis game between Belarusian player Sabalenka and Australian Ashley Barty. Sabalenka was grunting quite loudly with every hit, and the crowd started mocking her. They started grunting with her. An otherwise silent tennis court was resonating with high-pitched grunts from the crowd. It went on to such an extent that the match referee had to ask the crowd to maintain silence. Nevertheless, the crowd thought it was funny and continued to do it. Another example of people negatively influenced by crowd mentality can be seen on social media. Social media has become the hub of trolls, who mock people in huge groups, posting and commenting mean and obscene things which they never would speak if confronted face to face. It can be seen that an otherwise civilized individual who would never think of mocking someone started doing it because they became a part of a crowd. Nobody could put a finger on them and pinpoint their actions, so they gave in to the crowd mentality. Conclusion: crowd mentality has evolved as a psychological phenomenon, which has helped humans evolve to the top of the food chain. But when individuals become anonymous because of the vast numbers in crowds, they become reckless and let their true inner side take over. So what can common people like you and me do to stop becoming a mob? The only way to avoid being mobilized by a crowd is to think thoroughly and question all your decisions before taking any actions. Think what the result of your actions will be. Is that action what you would do if you were an individual? And if any of your answers become something that doesn't seem like you, stop right there and then. That's the only way to stop being part of a crowd guided by a destructive mentality.